we're going to talk about finding the right audience for you and what that means for niching down. My name is Kopal and I'm a strategist who helps entrepreneurs and creatives build their personal brand that challenges the majority of the marketing advice out there so that they can bring their true self into their brand. Now, when we talk about finding the right audience, most of the advice that you will hear would be find out what you do, what you're good at, and who you can help and create a demographic around it. And that's it. Now, there are two problems with that. A, even though you have demographic, that does not mean that you want to serve everybody inside that demographic, and you have no control over that unless they come to you for sales. And then secondly, if somebody does not know what their niche is and who exactly do they want to serve, they have no other option but to appear like they're for everybody. So this is one of the things that I truly believe in, is sharing your worldview, sharing your values, sharing your beliefs. And it not only creates a brand experience around your values and beliefs, but it also helps you cut through the noise and attract the right people, in the sense that it creates polarity. You attract the people that vibe with you, and those who don't, just leave. And you have potential to make those people your fans because they strongly believe in what you believe. It also adds a lot of purpose to your brand and makes you a little bit less boring. And eventually, when people are into your ecosystem or your brand verse, they start caring about what you have to say. They don't get off the rail when you start talking about yourself. They really want to hear you because they become your fans. Now, I'm going to talk about what I mean by sharing your worldview, because a lot of the people think that it's only about it's only political, it's only meant to be political, but it does not have. Let me share an example with you. There's an indie creator called Rob Hardy who has created Ungated Community. He describes it as the missing instruction manual for 1,000 true fans, and I love that. I have been following him for a very long time, and he shared an article about what happened when two creators promoted his courses during gift economy. Now, gift economy is basically a pricing model which is choose what you pay, and he put all of his courses, all of his material on that model for a brief period of time. And he sorts of experiments with a lot of these marketing things, and he is very rebellious in terms of his marketing, and that's, I guess, why I love his work. Now, gift economy works on a reciprocity principle, which I talk a lot about. It's basically sharing and giving as much value as you can, and you always get rewarded by true fans and people's love, support, and everything that we want as creators, to be honest. This article, he talks about 3 scenarios of sharing his courses. One where he shared the courses in his own community. The second was when Josh Spector shared it, and the third was when James Stuber shared it. Of course, when he shared in his own community, people were more than willing to pay for it because they were already in the ecosystem of his Ungated community. He also talks about mismanagement of expectations when it came to his courses being shared by Josh Spector. But he talks about what I found interesting was when James Stuber shared his courses, they performed exceedingly well. People were more engaged. The net revenue per buyer was higher, and according to him, it is because even though James Stuber talks about productivity and it's completely different industry than or niche that he serves, and he says it was because we're both warriors against a broken status quo. Him against harmful productivity advice, and me against one-size-fits-all business advice. That's what he says. So, and he goes on to talk about how sharing his worldview and sharing his values enabled him to reach even James Stuber's audience, because they were also used to James Stuber talking about a broken status quo or something in their industry that they didn't agree with. And James Stuber audience clearly vibed with such creators, and they chose to buy Rob's course. So you can clearly see the benefits of sharing your worldview. It's really interesting how just by sharing their worldview, they were able to connect their audience even though they were completely different niches. So it really does make you think about how we describe niche. When he shares his worldview, he's able to target the creators who actually vibe with the kind of marketing advice that he shares and the kind of disagreement that he has with the marketing world. That's what I think is really important about niching and finding your right audience, is that you need to share your worldview as well. So even though you may be attracting you have a niche nailed down, you might still be attracting the kind of people that you probably don't want to work with. Or if you have a niche down, or you just have a general audience, you're still gonna be able to make yourself less boring by just sharing a worldview and being able to cut through the people who don't vibe with your views. So I love the way Rob described it. He says it's about finding that shared DNA, and I absolutely love that, because you are trying to find a way not only to reach your target audience, but also find a common thread that connects you with your audience. And that connection is really important in terms of building a community and building a fan base. And it not just makes you think about niching, it also makes you think about influencer marketing itself, which I'm going to leave you to read in Rob's article itself, because he talks about it there, and I'm going to link it down below. Now let's talk about what I mean by sharing your worldview and using your voice, your audience, and your storytelling skills and stuff like that to make a positive impact. It means standing up for something, and here are some examples to what I mean. It could be politics, it could be mental health, it could be climate justice, it could be social justice like race, caste, religion, minority and stuff like that, disability, education, healthcare, animal welfare. It could also just be standing up against your status quo in the industry. And to share an example with you, I've built my personal brand as a photographer, and the broken status quo that I target is the gear heavy market that photography is, and photographers are subjected to, that you have to buy the latest gear to make that image and stuff like that. And I stand against that, because I don't believe that you need a certain amount of gear or a fancy camera to create a really beautiful image that says something. And that's the status quo. That's my worldview, that's my belief, that's my value, that you don't need gear to create a beautiful image, and you can start with what you have. Performance coach that I recently worked with executives, and the broken world that we talked about and that I helped her identify was that even though she was talking about productivity advice that does not apply to women, because a lot of the studies haven't been done for women or on women, I also noticed that she had a strong value system about the kind of broken work culture or the toxic workplace that has become, and especially for women. And I worked with her to help her integrate that into her brand. And she now will be able to not only share her worldview about the work culture, but also use that as a tool to attract companies that want to improve their working culture, want to make it more inclusive for women. Just by sharing her values, she'll be able to attract those companies who definitely want to go ahead and make their culture a little bit better, and she'll be able to come in as a trainer to help those companies. So that's what I mean by sharing your worldview. And it does not just have to be political. It can be, and it's a beautiful thing to do with your brand. And I strongly believe in doing a little bit or doing your little bit in whatever ways you can. And but yeah, you certainly don't have to. But I also want you to think for a second about the personal brands that you are following and why you're following them. Analyze why you're following them and why you're fans of those personal brands. And for me, The personal brands that I love are Rihanna, Christo, Selena Gomez, Emma Watson, Curtis Conner, Austin Kleon, and a lot of them. And I love them because they have certain values that I vibe with. And if it wasn't like that, I would probably not about them. So and also, like, a quick Google search will tell you that a lot of the people, a lot of the younger audience that you probably will be attracting, care a lot about what brands stand for. And we were seeing increasingly how brands like Victoria's Secret and the kind of toxic messaging that they bring around are getting, increasingly irrelevant, because people no longer vibe with them. And I think it's really important to talk about what you believe in and bring that into your brand experience, because that helps you a lot. It helps you attract the right people, and that's the most important part. You want to work with the right people, you want to work with nice people, you want to work with people that you have a common thread with. The way that you can do this is sit down, think about all the values that you have. I gave you a few examples about what you can choose from, and there are obviously, like, the examples that I gave you are a bit broad, and you can definitely pick and choose certain issues among them itself, because they're really, really broad, and it's just a guide for you to think around. Find out what are your values, what exactly do you really want to talk about, you get fired up talking about, or can talk endlessly about, and then find a way you can integrate that into your brand. I'm pretty sure that whatever you believe in will seamlessly integrate into your brand, because your brand is about you, it reflects you. And if you can find a way to bring that into your offer, that's gonna be, once you find that, bring that into one of your content pillars and keep that advocacy going, and create content around it, so that people can immediately identify through your content that you are somebody who believes in XYZ. And don't overdo it. You don't have to overdo it. You can just probably share it in your stories and make it one of your highlights. If you want to post about it, you can post, make it one of your content pillars and talk about it probably once in 2 weeks or something like that. I'm personally a fan of these brands and I'm talking about them. Like, I also talk about these things where I don't vibe with most of the marketing or Instagram related advice or the personal brand related advice out there, because it makes success or making it as an entrepreneur, as a creative, sound like just one thing, that you have to be this one person. And I absolutely do not disagree with it, and that's the reason why I try to help people build their personal brand that's true to themselves and does not feel like a lot of work. And if you enjoyed what I talked about, do consider subscribing and liking this video. I have more coming up, and I hope I'm going to be able to help you. I'm not sure where I'm going with this YouTube channel, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to be able to help you. If you want to read other content that I've previously created, do hop on over to Instagram or LinkedIn. Feel free to send me a connection request, and I'll see you in the next one.